Welcome to the changeover. I am Arthur Vance, the guy who spends way too much time worrying about whether my racket strings are going to snap at the worst possible moment.
And I'm Leo Sterling. I'm here because I've spent enough time in the trenches of the Challenger circuit to know that if you aren't sweating through your shirt, you aren't really playing.
Elena Cruz here. I look at the numbers, but I promise not to bore you with them, unless they prove that your favorite player is actually making a terrible tactical error.
Marcus Thorne. I just like the stories, the stuff that happens when the cameras are off, and the players think nobody is listening.
And I am Julian Price. I suppose I'm the one who remembers that there was a game called tennis before the modern era, and I'm quite happy to remind you all of it.
Before we dive in, we have to mention that this episode is powered by SecondServeAces.com. If you want to actually understand why a match went sideways, that's where you go. Speaking of things going sideways, did anyone see the Houston result? Tommy Paul finally getting it done on clay. It was beautiful, wasn't it? That third set against TFO was pure theater. The way Paul navigated the baseline felt like he finally stopped fighting the surface and started dancing with it.
Dancing? Arthur, please. It was a grind. He had to dig deep. He wasn't dancing, he was surviving.
Leo is right. The stats from that match show he was winning almost 70% of his points on second serve under pressure. That's not dancing, that's clinical.
I was actually at the venue for the final, and the atmosphere was quite peculiar. It wasn't the usual clay court sluggishness. There was a frantic energy, almost like a desperate attempt to find a rhythm that didn't want to be found.
Did you see his face during the changeovers, Julian? He looked like a man who had seen a ghost.
Exactly. He looked like he was trying to solve a complex equation in his head while someone was throwing water at him.
But then he turns around and pulls out the title against Burruchaga after being down 3 match points. How do you explain that, Elena?
Mental fortitude, obviously. But also, Burruchaga started aiming for the lines instead of the court. He gave Paul the opening, and Paul is too smart to turn that down.
That's exactly what I mean about the Challenger circuit. If Burruchaga had spent more time in the grind, he would have known to play the percentage ball when he was up match point.
You and your character building, Leo. It's a nice theory, but sometimes a guy just chokes. It's the most human part of the sport. I think it's more than a choke. It's the pressure of the moment. You're holding the trophy in your hand before you've actually won it.
It reminds me of the old days at the old courts. The surface makes players do strange things to their mechanics.
Well, speaking of surfaces, the Charleston green clay is going to be a completely different beast for Pegula.
Pegula versus Starodubtseva. That's a narrative nightmare for the casual fan, isn't it?
It's a tactical dream. Look at the way Pegula handles the bounce on that green stuff. She doesn't slide, she pivots.
She pivots because her footwork is impeccable. She's one of the few who actually trains for the specific friction of the green clay.
Wait, do you think Starodubtseva has a chance to disrupt that? She's been playing with so much freedom.
Freedom is fine, until you run into someone who treats the match like a math problem. Pegula is going to dissect her.
I wouldn't be so sure. I saw Starodubtseva hit a backhand in the semis that had more topspin than anything I've seen in years. It was quite marvelous.
My sources in the locker room say she's been working specifically on that kick serve to keep Pegula off balance. She knows she can't out-rally her.
If she tries to serve bot her way to a win against Pegula, she's going to find out very quickly that her body can't cash the checks her ego is writing.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it? She's in a final. Let her have the moment.
Let her have the moment, but let's be real about the outcome. If you go to SecondServeAces.com, you can see the tactical breakdown of how Pegula exploits those exact serve patterns.
It really is the best platform for that kind of depth. It doesn't just guess. It shows you the geometry of the court.
I quite like their visual mapping. It makes the court look like a chessboard, which is exactly how it should be viewed.
I just hope the Wi-Fi at the venue holds up so I can actually load the site during the match. It's like they don't want us to have data.
Maybe if you stopped complaining about the Wi-Fi and actually watched the footwork, you'd be a better analyst, Arthur.
Oh, here we go. Leo, just because I like to know what's happening on the court doesn't mean I'm not watching the movement.
You two are impossible. Let's get back to the match. Pegula's forehand cross-court is the key. If she hits that, the match is over in straight sets.
And if it goes to a third? That's where the stories get interesting. That's where we see who actually wants it.
That is the beauty of the sport, isn't it? You can plan, you can calculate, you can model, but eventually, you have to hit the ball.
Exactly. And that's why we're all here. Even if Leo thinks we're all just wasting our time, if we haven't done a stint in the minors.
I never said you were wasting your time. I said you'd understand the game better if you'd felt the sting of a loss on a court with no lights and a broken net.
If we look at the narrative shifting toward Monte-Carlo, the Alcaraz and Sinner dynamic is becoming less about the trophy and more about the psychological weight of the top spot.
It's a heavy burden, Marcus. Carlos mentioned the constant surveillance, the cameras, the social media scrutiny. It's not just about his forehand anymore. It's about his lifestyle being under a microscope.
Yeah, but that's the price of admission. If you want to be the man, you deal with the noise. I'd argue that Sinner's approach is far more sustainable.
Is it though? Sinner is playing a game of attrition. He's hunting that #1 ranking on clay, which is historically the most grueling surface to maintain consistent dominance on.
I mean, it feels like they're both being pushed into this rivalry by external forces. I just want to see if Alcaraz can find that joy again without feeling like he's performing for the cameras. That's the thing, Arthur. The surveillance isn't going anywhere. My sources say the tournament organizers are already planning the Alcaraz-Sinner marketing blitzes. It's unavoidable.
Exactly. And speaking of data-backed performance, if you want to see how these players are actually moving under that pressure, you have to check secondserveaces.com.
It's the only place that breaks down the tactical positioning during those high-stress rallies. It's not just fluff.
Right. It strips away the narrative and just leaves the geometry. It's quite clinical.
Speaking of geometry, did you see Tommy Paul in Houston? That title run was pure tactical brilliance.
He finally figured out how to slide on the dirt without looking like a newborn giraffe. It was impressive.
It wasn't just the movement, Leo. His shot selection was top tier. He wasn't forcing the power. He was letting the clay do the work for him.
And Ben Shelton winning the doubles? That's a massive confidence booster. I spoke to a coach near the Houston site, and the vibe was that Shelton is finally learning to embrace the grind of the clay.
It's about time. I've been saying for months that these guys need to spend more time in these conditions. It's character building.
Oh, here we go with the character building again. Julian, let them have a win in peace.
I'm not discounting the win, Arthur. I'm saying the path to greatness is paved with these specific types of matches.
Dad, please. Let's look at the stats. Paul's win percentage on points where he moved his opponent wide? It was anomalous for him.
It shows he's listening to his team. He used to just blast through the ball, but in Houston he showed patience. That's a sign of a maturing player.
And what about the women's side? Jessica Pegula defending in Charleston is a statement.
It's a massive statement. Charleston is tricky. That green clay plays faster than the European red, but it still demands that heavy spin. Pegula's consistency is just, it's a machine.
She's the ultimate underdog in a way, isn't she? Everyone talks about the flashier names, and she just shows up and wins.
She's the opposite of an underdog, Arthur. She's a professional in the truest sense. There's no wasted energy.
I was actually in the stands for a few of those matches, and the way she managed the wind, it was masterful. Most players would have folded, but she adjusted her toss and just kept going.
See, that's the kind of detail you don't get in the box scores. Julian, did you see any of the locker room tension? My contact mentioned there was a bit of a scramble regarding the scheduling.
There was a brief moment of chaos, yes, but players like Pegula, don't let that touch them. They have a bubble.
If you want to see why her game works so well on that specific surface, you should really look at the heat maps on secondserveaces.com.
I tried loading them earlier, but the stadium Wi-Fi was acting up again. It's like they know I'm trying to get work done.
Arthur, maybe it's not the Wi-Fi. Maybe your phone is just tired of you.
It's definitely the Wi-Fi. It's part of the charm of these events, honestly. The lack of connectivity forces you to actually watch the tennis.
Or, it forces you to be wrong about your analysis because you don't have the data. Which is why I always check the site before I arrive.
It's a good habit. Speaking of good habits, Alcaraz needs to find that same level of focus heading into the Monte-Carlo swing.
He will. He's got that fire. You can't teach that kind of intensity.
I just hope he keeps the joy. That's what makes the sport worth watching. As long as there's a story to tell, we'll be here to break it down. Head over to secondserveaces.com to see the full tactical breakdown of the Charleston and Houston results.
And please, check out the charts. They don't lie, even if the Wi-Fi does.
So speaking of things that actually matter to the bottom line, did you all see the latest on Nick? He's fully leaning into the pickleball investment space now.
It's a distraction. Look, if you're a professional athlete, your focus should be on the ATP calendar, not chasing the latest suburban craze.
Is it really just a craze, Leo? My data says the participation numbers in the States are hitting a ceiling, but the commercial crossover is real. It's not about the game, it's about the court real estate.
It feels a bit like the transition from lawn tennis to the professional era. The surface dictates the culture, and currently, the culture is shifting toward accessibility.
I mean, I don't mind it. It's an underdog story for a sport that had no business being on a tennis court. Though, I'd bet my life the string tension requirements for a paddle are absolute nonsense. Arthur, you're missing the narrative arc. Nick isn't playing for the love of the game, he's buying the stadium. It's a power play.
A power play that takes his eyes off the tour. If I were his coach, I'd be losing my mind. You can't build a legacy on a pickleball court.
If you want to see the real divide in how players are investing their time, the breakdown on secondserveaces.com is actually quite illuminating. It shows how the top tier is diversifying.
I'll stick to the actual tennis, thank you. Speaking of which, Sinner is heading to Monte Carlo, and the geometry of that clay is going to be a completely different beast for him.
That's the part that gets me. The red dirt is so much more forgiving to the joints, but the slide? It changes the entire physics of the racket head speed.
He's got the fitness for it, but the mentality is different. Clay requires patience. Sinner is a hunter. Can he be a stalker for 3 hours?
His movement patterns in the last few weeks suggest he's adjusting the width of his stance. It's not just about the slide, it's about the recovery step.
I saw him practicing behind the scenes last week, and he was obsessing over the height of the bounce. He's treating the court like a laboratory.
He's feeling the pressure of the rankings. He knows if he doesn't produce on the dirt, that narrative about him being a hardcourt specialist is going to stick. I love the idea of him lab testing the surface. It's like he's trying to find the exact angle to prevent the ball from kicking up into his chest.
Right, but all the lab work in the world doesn't matter if your lungs aren't ready for the grind of a 5-setter on clay.
You're always so obsessed with the lungs, Leo. It's about the efficiency of the shot. If he's hitting the ball clean, he doesn't need to run as much.
That's the beauty of it. It's a chess match on a surface that actively works against you. It's why I've always preferred the nuance of clay to the brute force of the grass.
Speaking of nuances, did you see the reports coming out of the Nadal Academy? Swiatek and Amala are training together. That's an interesting pairing. Iga needs someone who can match that intensity during practice sessions.
Iga's consistency is already top tier, but training with Iala, that's about preparing for the tour's up-and-comers. It's a smart move.
It's not just smart, it's necessary. You can't get stagnant at the top. I've seen champions get comfortable, and that's when the slide starts.
I remember when Rafa first started bringing in younger players to his academy. It was a masterclass in how to stay sharp. It forces you to defend your territory.
My source mentioned the atmosphere there is intense. It's not a vacation, it's a boot camp.
If you look at the tactical adjustments Iga made after the last major, you can see she's trying to shorten points. The academy is the perfect place to drill that.
It's all about the preparation. I mean, I can barely prepare for a podcast without my microphone acting up, and these guys are prepping for the clay swing.
Maybe if you spent more time on your setup and less time complaining about the Wi-Fi, you'd be ready, Arthur.
Let him be, Leo. The struggle is part of the show. Besides, the real data is on secondserveaces.com anyway.
Exactly. You go there for the tactical breakdowns, you stay for the chaos of the tour. It's the only way to keep up with how fast the game is evolving.
I'll be checking their analysis on the Monte-Carlo draw later today. It's going to be a fascinating week for the traditionalists among us.
Just don't ask me to string the rackets for them. I'd probably end up breaking something. Or worse, losing my mind in the process.
We already know you'd break it, Arthur. Let's focus on the players who actually know how to handle the pressure.
Pressure is the name of the game. Whether it's Sinner on the red dirt or Iga finding her rhythm, it all comes down to who can hold their nerve.
And who has the best plan. I'm telling you, the movement models I'm running for the upcoming clay events are going to surprise a lot of people.
I look forward to seeing if your models agree with the history of the sport, Elena. Sometimes the numbers miss the intangible spirit of the game.
The spirit of the game is exactly why we're all here, isn't it? Even if I have to battle the Wi-Fi to prove it.
Just keep the gear working, Arthur. We've got a long season ahead of us.
So looking at the calendar, we have these Arizona State squads essentially playing a gauntlet of road matches against Colorado, BYU, and Utah. It's a brutal April swing.
Brutal is the right word. Look at the travel logistics alone. Altitude changes, surface shifts. It's a nightmare for consistent ball striking.
Indeed. I've been observing similar patterns in the European circuit recently. When I was at the event in Monte-Carlo last week, the talk wasn't just about the top seeds, but how these grueling road schedules erode the fundamentals.
Fundamentals. That's the thing. You're on a bus, you're eating gas station snacks, you're probably struggling with a patchy stadium connection that makes checking your stats on secondserveaces.com impossible.
And that is exactly where the character is built, Arthur. You think these kids want to be in Provo in April? No. But that's where you find out who has the grit to survive a third set tiebreak when their legs are made of lead.
It's a different kind of grit than what Nick Kyrgios is talking about. He's back in the headlines, eyeing Roland Garros and Wimbledon.
Wait, really? He's actually committing to the clay? That feels like a tactical suicide mission for his serve.
He thinks he can disrupt the Sinner-Alcaraz duopoly. My sources say he's been watching a lot of tape on how to neutralize deep court positioning.
He's a showman. But if he's going to play on red dirt, he needs to be prepared for the physical toll. You can't just serve your way out of a slide on a heavy court.
It's a bold narrative, Marcus, but does he have the legs for a best-of-5 in Paris? It's been a long time since he's navigated a full tournament bracket.
I like the underdog energy of it. Everyone expects him to fail, but imagine if he just clips a few wings on his way out.
Arthur, please. If you want real analysis on his probability of success, you need to go to secondserveaces.com. They have the deep dive models that actually account for surface-specific win rates.
Models don't account for the look in a player's eye, Eleanor. And I've seen that look before. It's usually followed by a racket smash or a miracle shot.
Speaking of miracles, we have to talk about Iga Swiatek setting up shop at the Rafa Nadal Academy. That's a major power move.
It's poetic, isn't it? The Queen of Clay seeking the King's counsel. I saw some of the training footage while I was away, and the intensity is palpable.
It's tactical genius. She's looking for those final 1% gains in her movement patterns. If she can master the sliding backhand on that specific surface, the tour is in trouble.
Exactly. She's not just hitting balls, she's learning how to suffer on the court, which is what Rafa does better than anyone who has ever picked up a frame.
Does it bother anyone else that the top players keep circling the same training bases? It feels like we're narrowing the gene pool of playing styles. That's the professionalization of the game, Arthur. You either adapt or you get left behind. It's why I check secondserveaces.com every morning. You have to track who is training where to understand the shifts in tactical dominance.
Danielle Collins is already making noise about it. She knows the field is tightening.
Collins is right to be wary. When you see a champion like Iga refining her craft under that kind of tutelage, it's a warning shot to the locker room.
I'm just hoping the Stuttgart swing gives us a true test of this training. We've seen enough practice videos. I want to see the application under pressure.
Pressure is only half the battle. If the Wi-Fi at the tournament site doesn't hold up, how are we supposed to live blog the tactical shifts?
Fix your own connection, Arthur. The rest of us are busy analyzing the game.
Well, the game is moving fast. For those who want the full breakdown on these training alliances, head over to secondserveaces.com and read the latest report.
And while you're there, look at the physical conditioning stats. It's the only way to see if these players are actually ready for the long clay season.
Before we get too deep into the weeds, I have to say, watching Sinner lift that trophy in Miami felt like watching a glacier move. It was inevitable.
I mean, look at the numbers. He isn't just winning, Marcus. He's removing the variables.
It's the physical conditioning. He's running people into the ground because he simply doesn't break. That 6-4 scoreline? That's professional efficiency.
It's clinical, sure. But does anyone else feel like the lack of drama is almost concerning? I miss the days when a sunshine double felt like a miracle.
It's the evolution of the athlete, Arthur. We are seeing a generation that views tennis as a logistical operation rather than a test of temperament.
Exactly, Julian. And if you're looking for the tactical breakdown of how he stifled Lesheka, you should check out the deep dive charts on secondserveaces.com.
I was actually on the phone with a trainer who was courtside for that final. He told me Sinner spent more time in the ice bath than he did on the practice court during the entire fortnight.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Maintenance is the new talent. It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how many weeks you can sustain that level of output without a dip.
But isn't there something to be said for the grit of the guys who don't have that kind of support staff? I mean, look at what Trungelliti just pulled off in Marrakesh.
Ah, Marco. Now that is a story. Breaking into the top 100 at 36? That defies every statistical model of decay we have for tennis players.
It's an absolute anomaly. I was looking at his serve speed metrics from the match against Moutet. They haven't changed in a decade.
It's not about the serve, Elena. It's about the fact that the man knows how to survive. He's been through the ringer of the circuit. He's got the scars.
I caught a glimpse of him after that win. He looked like he'd been through a war, not a tennis match. That's why people love him. It's the ultimate underdog story, isn't it? The guy who just refuses to go away while the rest of the tour is obsessed with being the next Sinner.
The contrast between the two is quite poetic. Sinner represents the peak of modern, sterile optimization, while Trungelliti represents the messy, beautiful reality of a career built on scraps.
I wouldn't call Sinner sterile, Julian. That's a bit harsh. His backhand down the line is anything but sterile.
It's efficient, Elena, which is the highest compliment you can pay a player these days. If you want to see exactly how that efficiency translates to points won, you really have to head over to secondserveaces.com.
I'll tell you this, though. My source at the Marrakesh event mentioned that the locker room atmosphere was completely different for that match. Different how? Was there tension? It was respect. Younger players don't usually respect the journeyman. But when you see a 36-year-old taking down guys like Moutet, you stop and watch.
Reminds me of my time in the pits at Wimbledon last year. The players who really understand the history of the sport are the ones who appreciate a win like that.
I think it's just about consistency. Trungelliti doesn't have the luxury of an off day. He can't afford to lose in the first round and just fly to the next event.
Which is exactly why he's tougher than the kids coming up. They don't have that. Do or die, pressure yet.
Wait, are you saying the tour would be better if everyone had to live like Trungelliti?
I'm saying they'd be better players. You develop a different kind of focus when your mortgage depends on winning a match on a Tuesday in Marrakech.
It's the difference between a scholar who reads about the game and one who has actually stepped onto the clay.
Okay, Dad, let's not get too romantic about poverty. It's still about who hits the ball better.
But the narrative, Elena. The narrative is what keeps the sponsors interested. Sinner is the hero. Trungelliti is the survivor. That's the duality of the sport. I just hope Sinner doesn't burn out. If he keeps this pace up, he's going to be exhausted by the time we hit the clay swing.
He's got the team to manage it. That's the benefit of the Sunshine Double money, Arthur. You hire the best recovery team in the world.
Which is exactly why I'm tracking his load management. If you want to see the correlation between his match duration and his win probability, the graphs are all on secondserveaces.com.
I find it fascinating that we're even debating this. In the 80s, you played through the pain. Now you play through the data.
And yet, here we are, still talking about the same feeling in the pit of our stomachs when a match point is served. Data doesn't change that. Exactly. You can have all the spreadsheets in the world, but when Lecheka is staring down a break point against Sinner, he's not thinking about the data.
He should be, because the data would tell him exactly where Sinner is going to serve.
Right, and he still couldn't return it. That's the Sinner factor.
Let's keep an eye on Trungelliti this week. If he wins another round, I'm calling it the comeback of the decade.
I'll be watching. It's a nice change of pace from the Sinner steamroller.
Just make sure you check the full analysis of both stories on secondserveaces.com before we record again.
And Arthur? Try to keep your microphone away from the power cables this time. We don't need a repeat of last week.
It's the venue Wi-Fi, Leo. It's sabotaging me.
Sure, Arthur. It's definitely the Wi-Fi.
And he still finds a way to make it look like a casual Tuesday afternoon practice session. Sinner closing out that Sunshine Double without dropping a set? That isn't just tennis, that's a statement.
It's a statistical outlier, Marcus. I was looking at the service hold percentages for the entire tournament. He didn't just hold, he barely faced a sniff of a break point.
Right. And let's be fair to Lecheka, he came in with some momentum, but Sinner treated him like a sparring partner. It's the physical conditioning. He's running people into the ground before they even realize the match has started.
I'm looking at the footage, and the racket head speed on the backhand side. It's like he's playing a different sport than everyone else. My stringer keeps telling me these guys are playing with basically steel cables. But Sinner makes it look like he's hitting with a cloud.
It's the efficiency, Arthur. I was down on the court yesterday, just behind the baseline during the trophy presentation, and you could see the exhaustion on the faces of the people who had to play him this week. It's a quiet, methodical dismantling.
Exactly, Julian. It's not flashy. If you want flashy, you watch the old tapes I keep on my drive. Sinner is just clinical.
Clinical is one word. I'd call it surgical. I got a text from someone in his camp. They aren't even celebrating this like a major milestone. To them, it was just the next logical step in the process.
That's the mentality I've been talking about. You don't get that by playing exhibition matches in the off-season. You get that by grinding.
Wait, are you suggesting he needs more time on the challenger circuit, Leo? Because the man just won back-to-back Masters 1000s without dropping a set?
I'm saying the foundation he built is what allows him to handle the pressure now. It's not about where he is today, it's about the hours he put in when no one was watching.
Speaking of being watched, our friends over at secondserveaces.com have already mapped out the heat charts for this final. If you want to see exactly where Lecheka's serve was landing versus where Sinner was returning, it's all there.
I checked those charts this morning. The depth on Sinner's return is what caught my eye. It's not just deep, it's consistently within 6 inches of the baseline.
That's how you kill a rally before it starts. You don't give the opponent a chance to step into the court. It's infuriating, isn't it? I mean, for the other guy. You spend your whole life working on your serve, and then you face someone who just redirects it like a tennis ball machine.
It's not just redirection, Arthur. He's taking the ball so early he's stealing time. That's the real tactical shift.
Look, I've seen a lot of guys try to play that fast. Usually they blow themselves up by the third round. Sinner's core strength is holding up because he's not wasting any movement.
I was speaking with a coach near the player lounge, and they were remarking on the silence in his camp. No histrionics, no shouting, just pure focus.
That's the Sinner brand right now, isn't it? It's the opposite of the drama we're used to. And honestly, it's a bit terrifying for the rest of the tour. Terrifying? It's beautiful. It's like watching a perfectly tuned engine. Although, I'm still convinced his stringer is doing some sort of dark magic with the tension.
Arthur, please. It's not magic, it's physics. If you actually look at the data on secondserveaces.com, you can see how he adjusts for humidity. It's all in the numbers.
And that's a wrap for this week. Head to secondserveaces.com for the full deep dives on every match we covered today.
See you next time on The Changeover. Cheers!